This is the Dover Download Podcast. My name is Christopher Parker, and for the past 25 years, I've had the pleasure of working with, learning from, and talking to a variety of volunteer, staff, and community members. This podcast explores conversations, activities, and a variety of policies and programs which exist here in Dover to improve the community in one way or another. This week, we continue our look at the municipal operating budget for FY2027. We're going to focus in on the police department, fire department, public library, and DoverNet. Joining us first is Police Chief Dave Terlemezian. Dave, how are you?
Good, Chris. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. On the one hand, I want to ask you how your first budget went. And on the other hand, I know you've been around the budget block before in the supporting role with the former Chiefs Colarusso and Bro. But putting together this budget, what was it like?
So you're right. This is my first budget that I could sort of take full ownership and or responsibility for. But yeah, my prior role as a captain, especially support services division, that was a role where I had a lot of involvement in the budget process. So yeah, I've told a few people that this is actually my 16th budget, not my first. So
there you go.
But the budget process went well. I, for the most part, followed the framework that has been set out by chiefs before me, which is to solicit information and feedback from the staff. And they're directed to solicit feedback and requests from their staff. So it's supposed to be a collaborative process, and I think it is. It ends up coming to me in the form of some wish list items and some needs. And a big part of the process for me is, and the captains that helped me build the budget, is to kind of determine which needs are true needs and how many of those things are wants, and then what we think we can justify and what fits into whether it's the mission of the department or, you know, the city's master plan or any kind of strategic planning that we've done. All those things are taken into consideration. And the other thing that I think maybe not everybody understands is that the police department budget this year, last time I checked, crested $13 million. That's a lot of money. Out of a $13 million budget, there are very few things that the police chief is sort of choosing to put in there. There are not many items that are wants that are in there. A lot of it is personnel, which is our most precious and valuable resource. But even some of the things that look like they're wants, like should we buy these 2 servers this year? Those are actually needs, because if you don't buy them this year, then they just get older and they run out of warranty or whatever. So I haven't done the percentages, but it's a very small percentage of things in this budget that are just sort of truly optional or choices. Everything else is essentially driven by need.
The other night you went through, as part of your presentation, sort of the mixture of parking, general fund, grant funding, all of that comes together. Within those areas, is there any project or activity that jumps out to you that you think the listener needs to be aware of as a costly item or something that's a change from FY26?
There are 2 things that I think people need to pay attention to, and I'm glad I was able to say the part that I just talked about where there's not a ton of discretion with respect to the budget. 2 other areas where there's very little or any discretion if we're going to keep the service level as it is. One is body cameras. So we've had body cameras since 2021, and at the time, we purchased the body cameras and the service and the storage capacity all up front as a lump sum purchase for 6 years. That's coming due in March of 2027, which is during the FY27 budget. So as a result, it was time to check in with them and get new prices, and we've now selected the option of paying for the body cameras on an annual basis, and that's about $90,000 a year. So there's a $90,000 jump in the budget that is to maintain our body cameras. And during the course of the 5-year plan, you get a refresh on all the equipment and you have support that's all built in there. But really, the body cameras are incredibly important for accountability and, you know, maintaining that professionalism that we're so proud of at Dover PD. The other thing that's important to point out is grant funding. Now, grant funding has been also in my prior role a big part of my job as a captain. So I'm pretty familiar with the processes and the ups and downs that come with relying on grant funding and seeking grant funding. And grant funding right now is a at sort of an unpredictable time right now, whether it's federal funding or state funding. It always kind of has been. It just seems to be more volatile right now. And some of our federal grants are naturally expiring. And in order to continue to maintain our excellent services with our prevention unit as well as our social work unit, there was a higher match coming from city dollars than in years past. Another grant that called for a higher match in this budget year is a COPS grant. We were able to get a COPS grant a few years ago to hire 2 additional police officers to do crisis response. In January of this year, we started that grant project, and there's a match requirement for that. So that's another budget driver. That's an increase. And again, these aren't really choices. To keep the service level that we're at, we need to make those investments.
Before we move over to Chief Driscoll to talk about fire and rescue, is there anything you want to make sure the listener is aware of that maybe they didn't pick up the other night?
I think we covered it. I think it was a pretty good presentation, and I hope everybody got what they needed out of it. And if they have any questions, they know how to contact me.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Next up is Chief Driscoll representing Dover Fire and Rescue. Chief, unlike Chief Terlemezian, this is your first budget, sort of.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, thank you, Chris, and thanks for having me on. This is my first time going through the budget, but again, I had some help mentoring from previous fire chiefs. Worked together on it.
So can you tell what was involved putting together the fire and rescue budget? What sort of things are you looking at? What are your areas that you're looking at?
Of course. So I will say that kind of a similar setup to, as Chief Terlemezian stated, is checking in with their staff on the fire department. Each officer has a different area of expertise or just area of responsibility, whether that be small tools and equipment, training, EMS, hose, supplies. So we'll check in with them throughout the year to see what the new trends are of the fire service, to see what we kind of need to plan ahead to keep us growing. Along with that, we do look at what our internal strategic goals are and those of the city and the goals of the council, and kind of see how we can blend all the needs of what the individual firefighters, the fire officers, the chiefs, and the city council and the citizens themselves all need to put together a package that will serve us well.
And I know that your primary area is suppression. That's probably the bulk of where you're staffing at, which is a good thing. And your capital areas are also under that when we get to the capital improvements budget. One of the things I think that Chief Plummer was recognized for, and he alluded that you were a big part of, was sort of foreshadowing some equipment needs and pre-buying where we could. Are you feeling that we're in a good spot regarding maintenance of those vehicles in the operating budget and how that's going to be carried forward?
Yeah, very much so. We had an aging fleet, and over the past 18 months have worked to improve the quality of our fleet by finding new apparatus and basically not using monies into fixing our aging fleet, buying new. We'll see. We do have a slight increase that we presented in our vehicle maintenance line item, due mainly to just rising costs, just like parts for any other vehicle. Parts and labor goes up to the same rate on the fire department side as it does to anyone at home. But what we did do is we did back that down. We didn't raise it as much as we initially were going to, based off the work with using money from the CIP to improve our fleet from ambulances to fire trucks and support staff vehicles.
And I always think it's worth reminding folks, and public safety is a prime example of this. People think of their own vehicles and they think, well, I replace my vehicle every 10 years, or maybe I'm alone in that. But your vehicles are used a lot harder. Both the police cruisers and the fire apparatus are a lot more use intense than a normal vehicle. And it's good that you're on a plan to make sure that you're maintaining and having the best equipment possible to serve the public.
Exactly. So we did approximately 7,500 calls last year, split between the 3 stations. And different with the fire apparatus and similar to the police vehicles themselves is that they go from a cold start in the station, they pull out, they drive fast, and they drive safely to whatever incidents they're at, but then they're shut right down and they're stopped. And it's just not the best wear and tear on a vehicle. The vehicles themselves are built to be over-the-road trucks that run for hours on end, and instead we're just turning them on, driving quickly, shutting them right off. It does cause a lot of wear and tear.
Before we move over to the public library, anything else you want to make sure the listener hears?
No, I think that's it. I think I covered it all in my presentation, and I appreciate the time today and look forward to talking again. Yeah,
we'll definitely have you back so you can do a more formal introduction to the listener as part of an ongoing series we like to do ongoing because we've had a lot of turnover, but meeting a new department head. Next up, public library. Denise LaFrance from the Public Library is here to talk about what goes into the public library budget. Denise, welcome.
Thank you.
You're moving back into your new building, which we're going to have you back to talk about as we get closer.
Very exciting.
How does that impact when you're putting together this budget?
Oh, it impacted it quite a bit. First of all, I needed to look at all of the, water and sewer and heating and all that stuff, which is going to be vastly different.
Right. There's no institutional knowledge there.
Exactly. So there were educated guesses. I talked to as many people as I could to find out how they think things are going to trend in the new building. But the other thing that it affected was it's more space, especially in our children's room. It's going to be, I don't know the square footage, but it's significant.
Yeah.
So I also think it's going to be a lot busier. Studies show you improve the space,
right.
People come. So we did add some hours to double up on some afternoons and make sure we have enough people for after school time. So there were some increases in that as well.
It's increases in existing hours, not adding new staff, correct?
Exactly. We have a lot of part-time staff, so it's just adding some hours to some staff people.
Other than the building, which is a big component I get, and other than the staff hours, are there other new things or other tweaks or changes that might not jump out to the listener?
Well, something that has been trending up with us is the community's desire for programming. So there's two types of programs that we have. In-house, where we, do crafts things or, so, some sort of in-house programs. So we need supplies for that. And then there's just the hiring of performers. And those people want to see that more and more from us. And also the cost of those are going up. Sure. So we've added some money in that. But we are lucky in that the Friends of the Library help us out with that too. So they supplement that budget.
When you're looking at the budget, one of the things we've consistently heard from your colleagues is they are looking at the master plan, they're looking at the council goals, and they're looking at your own strategic plan.
Absolutely.
I got to think a big part of both the master plan, well, I know a big part of the master plan one and your strategic goal was to provide the best place possible for the end user. Are there other elements that you might want to point out or that you did the other night at your presentation?
Yeah, so one of the strategic goals that I looked at was, we are trying to increase users.
Yeah.
We have right now about 13,000 cardholders. We'd like to see that go up. We'd also like to look at, who isn't using the library and why aren't they using the library. So, and trying to increase those numbers. And one of the things we'd like to do is add different services that maybe target people who aren't using the library. So just adding different services. We're always looking at them and the numbers, our monthly statistics, because you can't just keep doing the same programs. It's, people change, trends change. So
you can't have the same presentation for 20 years in a row.
No, that wouldn't really work. So we're just looking at that and what do we bring into that people want to see?
As we wrap up, one of those services I wanted to ping you on is I read recently that the State Department is changing who can do passports, and one of the groups on the list was libraries.
Right.
Is that something you're affected by, or?
So we won't be bringing back passports when we move back into the library, and that was due to a couple of reasons, but it is the staff time to do that and the training was just very, very significant. And most of the people that coming in to do them weren't Dover people. So, we looked at it as, okay, how do we want to use our staff time? Do we want it to use it to bring services and programs to Dover residents? Or do we want to do this other thing that is valuable but isn't directed at the community? Right.
And it's not having the effect of having someone come, get their passport done, and then stay and use the library.
No. Yeah.
It was a destination versus or it's a drive-by versus a destination.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Just that we are very excited to be moving back into our new building, and we are looking forward to welcoming everybody back in. So stay tuned for more about that.
Cool. We will have you back, and we'll chat then. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Now we're going to talk to Annie Dove, our Director of IT, who has a different type of budget than what we've talked about so far. The DoverNet budget is different from the others because the others are really driven by the general fund. You're driven by the needs of people like police and fire as well as all the rest of us, but also your funding is different too. When you're putting together your budget, what are some of the things you're looking at?
So I would say, in terms of preparing the budget, in many ways, and we've heard it from the fire chiefs and the police chief, it's a year-round process for us. We always have our staff participating in webinars, attending conferences, talking to vendors, talking to other municipalities to see where they're at and the direction that technology is going. So oftentimes throughout the year, we're just putting those items aside in a placeholder so we can look at it when we really officially start budget development. Budget development starts for us in September. We're doing a physical eyes-on audit of all of our inventory, and that information or data is used to project the cost for our customers who are the other departments in the city. So we call it a PC replacement program. It is in our capital improvement program. So we promise that we're going to keep investing, keep equipment current for our employees. So that happens in September. That cost is sent out to department heads in October. Once the department heads have that money, then we go into other shared items that we're funding across the city. So we're responsible for all telecommunication costs. So we're looking at where those costs are headed. We're also looking at enterprise applications. So these are applications that are shared by more than one department. So that's a big piece of the budget that we're reviewing and figuring out license counts, direction of the vendors, and the cost.
You and I can both remember when IT was a novelty, and now it's that thing where you can't live without it. I'm sure that the pressure you get, and I know I'm part of it, of saying, "Hey, can we do this?"
Yeah.
And I know from our conversations that part of you wants to just say yes, because you're into it as well.
Yes.
But then the reality is no, or over time, yes.
Yeah. The hard part is saying no politely.
Yeah.
And
You do well.
And saying a what if or how can we? So I really appreciate the organization where we have a centralized DoverNet Office of Information Technology. So we're kind of aware of what all the different departments are doing. So we try to break down and maintain the absence of silos where we can. So oftentimes we're looking at where we can bridge information and integrate, whether it's across departments, across applications, that type of thing.
Are there areas that you want to call out that you went over the other night that you think the listener really needs to be aware of?
Yeah, I spoke to one already, which was, how we're developing the plan and how we really follow the IT strategic plan, and as well as looking at capital improvement plan and the city council goals. For IT, we have a couple of really basic things that we're doing. We're looking at making sure all of our hardware is current and that all of our applications are supported. In this day and age, with the cybersecurity issues that are out there, we can't afford not to have aging applications that aren't getting patched regularly, hardware that doesn't get firmware updates. So that's the base level, I would say, is making sure that that is in place. In terms of beyond that, items that listeners might want to be aware of, one is, I would say, which is really interesting. I've been here for many years. More and more, I feel like it's a seller's market. The municipal space, there is not a lot of competition in high-end municipal applications.
A lot of consolidation, too.
There is a place where going to the cloud has been an option for many years. That is becoming less so. So this budget actually builds and anticipates future planning. For a couple years out, we have some applications where we're not going to be allowed to run them on-prem at a lower cost. So you'll see that here in this budget. The other thing you'll see in this budget is we have the opportunity to have two separate cybersecurity assessments conducted by Department of Homeland Security, CISA, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency last year. One was focused on our enterprise environment, business network. The second was focused on our operational technology environment. So there'll be two items you'll see in this budget that are a result of that assessment and their feedback. One is we have a very manual process of educating our staff on phishing. So we've added a product to automate phishing campaigns. It's something that is a common recommendation. So that's been added to this budget. The other item that we've added here is related to hardware replacement and lifecycle management, really, but is replacing our switching in our OT environment. That was another piece that came out to make sure that we're up to snuff on our switching architecture. So those are two of the things. The other thing I would mention is that the federal government ended a program in the middle of last year called MSISAC. They funded that organization. It's a multi-state information sharing and analysis center.
Yep.
That's how we learn quickly and early about zero-day threats. That's where we conduct our annual National Cybersecurity Review.
Yep.
The cybersecurity review is no longer available. It's been discontinued. We did it for 5 years, and it kind of showed where we were improving against the NIST framework.
Benchmark.
Yeah, year over year. The other piece was MSISAC quickly adjusted and went to a paid model based on community population. So there is a new subscription on our budget because it's such an important resource for the city to make sure we're aware of what's out there in that space.
As we wrap up, is there anything else the listener should be aware of?
You'll see it a little bit more in my presentation about some of the technologies that we're looking at, where our budget is. In general, it's pretty much a flat budget, no major big projects, just sustaining where we're at and anticipating those costs for the cloud environment.
On that note, I would encourage the listener to go back and review Annie, Denise, and the two chiefs' presentation from the last council meeting. It's available on our webpage under the Budget Revealed section. You can also subscribe to the Budget Revealed newsletter and reach out to the city manager with any questions. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Dover Download this week. If you like what you heard, subscribe through your favorite podcast aggregator. And if you have something you want to hear a topic on, let us know. Finally, this is just one of the many ways we share information about the city of Dover. You can subscribe to the Dover Downloads email newsletter every week or other newsletters that we have by going to the City of Dover homepage, www.dover.nh.gov. Have a great week.